Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes, the middle ground where Maryland comes together for real conversations. Today's guest is Ron Bowers, a retired U.S. Army major with 20 years of service, a proud Democrat and a lifelong community leader. He's led organizations like Horizon Goodwill, the Maryland Theater, and the Washington County Commissioners. We're talking leadership, service, and how both parties must work together to move Maryland forward. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I am your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host,
Ethan Lowen.
And we have a very special guest today, Mr. Ron Bowers. Ron, you are a Washington County legend. You've been involved in politics in Washington County for over 20 years as a county commissioner. You're a retired Army major, and we welcome you to the program.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So you were a longtime politician in Washington County. What do you say that the political climate is in Washington County right now?
Same as it is across the country, divided.
On party lines, you think?
I don't know if it's ideology or philosophy. You can break it down either way.
And when you were in politics and, you became a county commissioner from 1978 to 1998, is that correct?
Chairman of the board, 8 years.
Absolutely. I mean, you actually have had quite a prestigious career. I mean, and so you've been in the thick of things. You know, you've had your finger on the pulse all of this time. Was it like this when you first started and got involved in politics?
I grew up in the 60s. 60s was very turbulent. 60s prepared us for the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Issues we dealt with. When I was first elected, there was 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Then it became 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And we worked together, hand in glove. We did a lot together. A handshake was an agreement. There was always respect and talking. There was always the ability for everybody to be heard.
Those days are unfortunately long gone right now, Mr. Bowers. Decades ago, I grew up in the 70s, but even so, even then, partisan politics were divided, but they weren't bitter like they are now. Why do you think they're so bitter with each other?
How are we doing this interview right now? We're doing this by telephone call to me. We're doing it. I'm in my dining room. You're where you are.
Yes.
Do that back then. You didn't have this capability. You didn't have the capability of everything that happened last 60 seconds ago being all over the world in that period of time. I could deal with the guys from Frederick County, whether it was Mark Hope, whether it was Terry Roderick, Ron Young was active then, Sterling Bollinger was active. So I dealt with all of those guys, Gale and Claggett. We used to deal with those folks all the time. But when we dealt with them, whether it was how we were able to maneuver around, we maneuvered around a lot through the Maryland Association of Counties, MACO. Dealt a lot with whether it was Hagerstown or Frederick City or Hagerstown. We dealt with the Maryland Municipal League. We dealt a lot in the state with our own delegation because then Western Maryland was considered a portion of Carroll County West. Carroll Frederick was part of an overall district. They're dealing with now on an instant as to where our ideals are changing.
What I'm hearing you say here is very interesting if I'm following along with you. It seems like what you're describing is that in years past, up until just the last few years, everybody was forced, for lack of a better term, forced to deal with the people that were with them locally. And that's who you dealt with. And so we Americans were really forced to come to agreement with our neighbors because that's all we had to deal with. We didn't have the ability to instantly connect with someone in another community that agreed with us and almost like default to using each other's shared perspective as a support of sorts. We actually had to make it work with the person who was right next to us because that's all there was going to be.
The difference one-on-one, I can talk to a person one-on-one, talk a lot of common sense and realism. So there's a significant difference in communication. You dealt with people on an ongoing basis. We all said this conversation would go totally different if we were meeting in a restaurant someplace, body language, we would know her body language. We would know when somebody was saying the wrong thing or whatever. A lot of what you read today is generated by AI, which isn't even the closest thing to the truth. So when you've got the amount of misinformation that's out there, and when I dealt with Frederick County, I was chairman of the Board of County Commissioners when we had a lot of different issues. I would meet with the people in Frederick County one-on-one. We would talk with each other. We would meet with each other. We would understand each other. If we dealt with an issue and a handshake, you had a deal, you could get it done, whether it was getting $50,000 for a water system in Cascade, where now it is so much that people are everywhere doing everything and not paying attention and listening. And I tell you another thing we did that a lot of times don't happen today. We did homework and knew what the heck we were talking about when we did it. Today, there's just a lot of shooting from the hip, but the person has no clue what they're talking, but they talk about it. The person that doesn't know what they're talking about, AI gets a hold of it. And by the time you're finished, you're not even close to what it is you're trying to solve.
Yeah, we call that word salad. It's like a salad of words that means nothing. And it tastes about as good as a salad, too.
But before that, you can go back, 13 plus years where social media came along and created the dreaded echo chamber. And in a sense, the echo chamber is a version of what you're talking about, where everyone is just listening to people who already agree with them. There's no additional thoughts. There's no new ideas. It basically creates a type of a bigotry. And that has been going on for a long time. You have maintained a reputation of being a bipartisan, of talking to all people, and just getting along well with everybody. So for you personally, what is the secret?
How I grew up. I grew up working with people. I was a runner. I was an athlete. I dealt in the military. I dealt with all types of people. I was a commander. I was sent into hot spots to deal with problems in the black community as a commander that other people couldn't, because I could get along with people. And when you can get along with people, now I admire you, Ethan, because I followed you. You've got certainly differences of opinion, but you're there. You're constantly out there. You're doing things where I would be out there doing things, but the next day after I left, I would be doing something else to bring together, whether it was building 35,000 square feet, new square footage onto the Maryland Theater. We restored the theater 5 years prior to that, but then in October the 11th, 2019, we dedicated 35,000 square feet of absolute new space and called it Performing Arts Center, where I can go, and I learned a lot in that Performing Arts Center. But one of my favorite places to go, which is the Weinberg. So I would go to the Weinberg Center, and they had so many neat things there. But the Weinberg Center's auditorium isn't anything in comparison to the Maryland Theater. In the National Guard, when we were in Frederick, when we were activated to be in the race riots in 1968, after Martin Luther King was killed, we were stationed in Patterson Park. So we dealt with a lot of issues, but again, it was being in and around Frederick. It was doing things, and it's like here. If I see something happening today, I'm going to be involved. I was president of county commissioner for 8 years, and Greg Snook was president of county commissioners for 12 years.
In the old days, you could attend events that were bipartisan and there was no recrimination. Nowadays, if you attend a bipartisan event, your own party is calling you a traitor or a rhino or a MAGA or whatever other name they're going to generate to disparage you. That's the condition it is now. How do we get here, do you think?
Complacency.
Complacency?
We've lost the sense of doing our job and started doing everything else other than our job. We've gotten too involved in manipulative things at a federal level, maybe even at a state level. I'm a county commissioner. I'm going to stick with county issues. I'm not going to have my nose in a state. So how we've gotten here, times have changed. How we do things, I think on a scale has changed. When I was a county commissioner, I had two newspapers covering me all the time, a morning paper and an evening paper. They would do everything in the world to try to cross me up with what my beliefs was, or something like that. Or what, because I've been an outspoken person. I was a controversial person, still am. With it, I will do my homework and attempt to have all of the facts. But if I was wrong, I always admitted I was wrong.
That is rare nowadays, Mr. Bowers. I can tell you that most politicians will not admit when they're wrong.
If somebody comes out, if Ethan came up to me and said I got a different idea, and I sit down and talk to Ethan about it, holy cow, I never thought of it that way. Would be no problem doing it. And then in retrospect too, I would hope Ethan would do the same thing with me. Have that bond with each other. I'm not going to knife you in the back. I'm going to be there and work with you to get it done. Then I think it can be done. And I think there's too many people today, and I said this a little bit ago. There's too many people talk about stuff that they have no clue what they're talking about.
And I think you mentioned it's mutual respect. It's having mutual respect for each other and your opinions, and that's how you build that rapport that you're able to discuss things with somebody from another political party. We've lost that respect for each other.
Your city manager, town manager, is very controversial over here.
He is. I love him, though. And it's funny because I'm more of a conservative Republican. He's more of an independent Democrat, and I love him. We talk about we agree on 95% of the issues, Mr. Bowers.
And by the time he's done, and you're going to have to respect him for this, he does his homework.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. He is an amazing guy. He was instrumental in securing funding from the state under Project Open Space we have 11 parks in our little town.
I know. That's why I brought him out.
And he's amazing. Like I said, I love him. He and I are not just working together; we're friends. But again, he's an independent Democrat. I'm more of a conservative Republican. But we respect each other. We respect each other's opinions. Potholes and trash don't have a political party.
And that's the thing, is that pretty much all local issues don't have a political party. And to your point, there is such a focus on national issues that when it comes to the local issues, which actually have more of an impact on our daily lives than things that are oftentimes done at the federal level, but that is something that also needs to be fixed by the electorate. The electorate needs to demand that their local politicians simply focus on local issues, and that's what they're judged on.
I think your politicians are as bad as some of them are. It's because of your electorate. There will be 3 or 4 buzzwords that are used in political campaigns. And those buzzwords can take up a variety of things. Well, if that person believes in those things that have nothing to do with the job performance of a county commissioner, a delegate, a school board, a senator, a congressman, or whatever they are, they'll vote on what you believe on those 2, 3 things, not on your knowledge of what the position is you're running for.
And that has obvious implications, because if those are the things that are being prioritized are a few buzzwords, then what ends up happening is, they're the electorate are electing people who specifically don't know the issues, which in part is probably why they're not talking about the local issues, but sticking with large buzzwords.
Local issues is tough. That requires homework. In 2001, 9/11. And in 9/11, right after it happened, I worked with all different religions, and we've stayed together for 25 years, that group. And staying together for all that period of time, we have been able to get on the phone when there was a problem and talk about things, regardless of what it was. But we stayed together. I didn't know that there was a problem of working together. Not sure how we've gone off on a tangent that it's more beneficial to work against each other. See, I'm not a believer there's only one political party. You will never convince me of that. Once you go to one political party, you're going to have trouble. If I can't think different than Ethan, and I can't think different than you, Mark, then one of us is not necessary. And then you only have one idea. You need a blend of ideas. I'll bet both of your wives probably don't think just the way you do.
Agreed.
Yes. Yeah, my wife thinks much differently than I do. That's for sure.
There you go. So she was smart there.
Yeah, I outkicked my coverage, Mr. Bowers. I can tell you that right now.
You'd mentioned the race riots that you dealt with. I guess it sounds like in Frederick in particular, when you were in the military, and obviously you saw that. You lived through that experience, both the years leading up to it, during and after. And of course, now we have social divisions, some related on race, some others. What is your take on how would you compare or contrast, those social issues from the 60s to what we've experienced with the BLM riots in 2015 or 2020, or what has been going on with the LGBT community and assassinations, etc.? Well, what are your thoughts between these two periods of time?
Say what's the difference between then and today? And I know that my philosophy now probably be different than what it was then. I would do my homework, understand today's problems. I get voted out of office primarily for building a $37 million sewer plant. Do you know where, Ethan, you know where it is?
I believe it's on the towards the south end of Hagerstown.
It's the Conicajig wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
It's Elliott Parkway. And being there on Elliott Parkway, people didn't know where it was. We built the sewer plant. Nobody was opposed to it except the people's bill that went from like 48 to 98 cents a day from your house into the sewer plant and back into the cleaner going back into the river. They didn't like that because their bill went up that much.
It's funny. People will pay $300 a month to bring cable TV into their house, but they squawk and moan when they got to pay more than $40 to bring water, fresh potable water, into their home.
You are so true. You couldn't have made a better analogy. Perfect analogy.
So our citizens are constantly griping about the water bill, and I get it. It is a little high.
I'm glad Ethan Mark's on this program because he understands how government works. He's there. He knows he's got to, if you want to get something done right, you want somebody there's doing homework with you, don't you, Mark? Hopefully you got somebody disagrees with you. You bring that fire, you bring that service. Well, somebody else may have another idea, or you may have an idea.
Well, Ron, to your point about people not judging people on their actual job performance, but on their political background, Sheriff Jenkins, who everybody loves, who knows law enforcement and knows quality of life, he's a Republican. And the Democrats try to vote him out every single election, even though we are one of the safest communities in the entire state of Maryland. Frederick County has one of the lowest crime rates of violent crime of any county in the state. And this gentleman is the one leading the way for that. But because he's got an R in front of his name, people go after him instead of judge him on his job performance, which has been stellar.
So, there's a lot that I think we could all learn from each other. I would like to see some younger people in office, but I'd like to see them go back to get some of these older folks. My philosophy would be, whoa, have you thought about this, this, and this? Have you studied this, this, and this? What are you going to do with water? What are you going to do when you don't have a workforce that's going to be able to do the job? I tell you what they're going to do. They're going to start busting residents in from Jersey and other places across the United States to work here because we don't have the people. Then where are they going to live? That's a big debate going on right now. Ethan, you're probably aware of the debate that's going on out around the old Citibank building.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
There they are, and they're building a water treatment facility in Antrim Township. The Antrim Township supervisors, Mark, are up in arms because their police, rescue, and fire department's going to be like first to where this new building that was Citibank's going to be. But they've got just shy of 600 building units there in Antrim Township that's going on, and they're building water for it right now. We can't even service water net into the county because we got an antiquated water system that the city has that the county doesn't want to get involved in and put money in.
When it comes to Citibank, that building, it's been vacant now for several years. You're referring to the possibility of moving a large portion of the homeless community into that building.
First of all, let me give you a clarification. Citibank is 3 buildings. You cannot subdivide Citibank into 3 buildings because of setbacks, etc. They can give a building, lease a building for $1 a year to do that. And they talked about what they would do with the homeless, what they would do with drug rehab and that type of thing. But you got to remember how you get them there. You got to be able to get people to where they're going. So the bus system, the county bus system does run there, but how do you do it? So it would behoove everybody to sit down with the proper people and talk, how do we deal with it? We'll let homelessness become a political issue.
What are kind of the basic ideas that you would apply to the homeless situation as it stands now?
What we don't do, what I would do, you asked me what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
I would do something that they would say, you can't do that. I said, we never tried. I think we could. How well do you guys know where the Hagerstown Regional Airport?
We know it.
Yeah.
Right where the Hagerstown Regional Airport, there's about a 1.2 to 1.4 million square foot Amazon refrigerated warehouse that deals with food. Trammell Crow bought it. They paid like $14 million for the land. They put a $77 million building on it, who resold it then to Amazon. Amazon put an additional $100 million into that building and made it all refrigeration. If I were doing the warehouses and if I were a commissioner now, I would instruct the planning commission to have what is the reuse of this building when it isn't a warehouse. It's not always going to be a warehouse, guaranteed. What's the reuse going to be? If they can spend $200 billion for something, they sure as heck can come up with a reuse policy of that building. The other thing they would do, there would be solar. And I can ultimately see homeless type people being in communities that already are enclosed, like in one of those a big warehouse type thing, that then they would be inside and they'd be all enclosed, like a mall. You may be a generation that used to run around the mall.
Well, yes.
Mall was the place to go.
Yeah, I see the day coming where you guys' generation will live in a mall. There will be apartments. There will be all kinds of things around, and you will have that breakdown of the old community that you guys love to run around.
Yeah, if you wanted to meet chicks, you went to the mall.
Well, now you go to Meredith Ballpark and go to Meitel Schmidt's bar area outside, and you know every night if there's a ball game, there's all kind of people there. A lot of homeless people want to be homeless.
That is true.
We've done plenty of shows on that very subject, the fact of how to fight the homelessness issue. But I agree, we need to get some kind of affordable housing for these folks.
Yes. I don't know if that answers your question, but I would be dealing with how we do development. And I would gear it. People said, well, you can't change zoning. The heck, you can't change it. You can change planning. You can change anything that you want to change as long as they know it up front. We don't think anymore. We complain about, well, what are we going to do with the homeless? They want to be homeless. Well, they do this. Well, they do that. Well, you ever sit down and talk to a homeless person why they're homeless? Again, we don't talk to the people with the problem.
And you bring up an additional issue that I've noticed with a lot of politicians is that they essentially rely upon bureaucrats, whether it is bureaucrats within their organization or bureaucrats from the next level up in government, to basically tell them, hey, here is the solution that we've come up with. To your point, it appears to me that a lot of politicians don't think anymore, as you worded it, and simply rely upon bureaucrats to tell them, here's the strategy we've come up with, and then they essentially are rubber stamping that.
You just brought up a good point. I always felt the bureaucrat worked for me. I didn't work for the bureaucrat. I don't want the bureaucrat always telling me what to do. Hire a planning director to give good advice, but you better know what you're doing to help guide the planning director too.
Well, you said it earlier on. The thing is that the bureaucrats have a clear idea of what they want to do. The politicians are not doing their homework. So when the bureaucrats come in and offer ideas or thoughts or whatever, the politicians are just rubber stamping it because they don't know any different.
Check mark.
Yeah. If they did their due diligence, when the bureaucrats came in, they could say, look, that's a good idea, but there's other ideas. I've researched this. Let's look at other possibilities.
Yeah, but that politician's too busy.
And it takes a lot of work. You were a politician. You were on the county commission for 20 years. I mean, I guarantee it was on a volunteer basis, right? I mean, it was either a stipend or a very small salary.
Made about 12.
Yeah.
Okay, 12,000.
Yeah. And so to attract people to this job, which requires a lot of homework, a lot of time, a lot of effort for either a stipend or almost no salary whatsoever. It's pretty much a volunteer position. It's hard to attract good people to a volunteer type position that takes so much time.
I worked a full-time job at Mac, but I worked second shift or third shift. County in the daytime and work at Mac at night. But Mac was really good to me. Mac Volvo, that later became Volvo, they really give me a lot of good time.
What'd you do for a job over there?
I worked in the receiving department. I was like the team leader on the dock. You know, we sent out a lot of stuff into Iran, back when the Shah was in Iran. See, the Shah bought all Mac trucks. So we had the whole Middle East over there covered with Macs.
So you mentioned earlier, but let's talk about it. We want to thank you for your service. You spent 20 years in the United States Army.
That, the National Guard, and the Reserve.
Okay. I too was in the military. I was in the Air Force. Ethan was close. He was in the Navy. So he was almost in the military.
I mean, we do the most traveling, have the most fun, and are the most visible. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but we definitely want to thank you for your service, Mr. Bowers. You achieved the rank of major, which, how do you think your military background has helped you with the politics, with being a commissioner and working in the civilian world? And also, as you said, getting along with people from different backgrounds.
100%. I owe a major part of my work ethic to my parents, but a major part of doing things to my military background. It was getting along with people, finding people. See, I find that giving somebody else credit for doing something. All kind of people. They worked for me in the reserves, but we were all the same. I was only the command. These were guys in the community that we were all together. I got credit for being the commander, but the brains in the outfit was the people there. I was smart enough to know when I didn't know. And if you don't know what you don't know and you're not willing to put good people under you, I want somebody that's going to push me. I want somebody there that isn't afraid to speak truth to power, because I am not afraid, but I'll do my homework before I do it. I think we've lost a lot of that type of thing.
You're the generation that fought Vietnam War and Korean War.
Well, I was trained. We were leaving for Vietnam in May of '68 with the 28th Division. And in April is when Martin Luther King was killed. Everything was canceled, and we went to Baltimore City.
So, Mr. Bowers, how did the military shape your viewpoint towards getting along with people from different races, creeds, colors, and nationalities, religions, political backgrounds?
Well, when I got to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, my bunkmate was a black guy. My platoon sergeant was Puerto Rican. My lieutenant was Puerto Rican. Everybody just got along. Everybody was there to do a job. My one lieutenant was active in the Bay of Pigs, with Kennedy, when that ruckus was in the Bay of Pigs. It formulated a background for me to understand, able to get along with people. And you can't really get along with people until you sit down face to face. We can accomplish more on this program than talking, even more if you did it face to face.
Well, next time we'll have you in studio. I do appreciate you being here with us tonight, Mr. Bowers. You're a fascinating man. We appreciate your service to the county and to our country. We thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Promise to come back and talk to us again, maybe in person next time?
Only way I'll do it if I'm asked. I appreciate that. And
so this has been Mark Flynn, your host for Mid-Maryland Votes. With me, as always, is my co-host.
Ethan Lowen.
And we thank Mr. Ron Bowers for being with us today. If you like the content, go ahead and like, follow, and share both on Facebook and on YouTube. And we'll see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes. Thank you to Ron Bowers, retired Army Major, Democratic leader, and a lifelong public servant who proves that progress comes when both sides work together. From Goodwill to the Maryland Theater, his career defines community service and collaboration. Hey, you've been listening to Mid-Maryland Votes, the middle ground where Maryland comes together for real conversations. Like, follow, and share for more conversations that matter, and we'll see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes.